Back in the late 90s, Charmed made us believe magic could defeat almost anything. But in real life, some of its most beloved stars couldn't escape the most painful battles of their lives. From shocking deaths and hidden illnesses to emotional breakdowns in their final years, many of their real stories became far darker than fans ever imagined. Stay with us as we revisit the heartbreaking fate of the Charmed cast. Rebecca Balding as Elise Rothman. Behind the newspaper desk at Charmed, Elise Rothman fired off sarcastic remarks, skeptical looks, and exhausted reactions like a boss permanently stuck, managing supernatural chaos she could barely understand. Born on September 21, 1948, in Little Rock, Arkansas, Rebecca Balding was 54 years old when she returned to the series as Elise Rothman after previously appearing as Aunt Jackie earlier in the show. Her dry humor and commanding screen presence made Elise one of the most memorable recurring characters in Charmed. Sadly, Rebecca Balding passed away on July 18, 2022, at the age of 73 after a private battle with ovarian cancer. She died peacefully in Park City, Utah, surrounded by her husband James L. Conway, their children, and close family members after quietly enduring years of treatment away from the public eye. That painful final chapter remained largely hidden from fans because Balding intentionally withdrew from public attention after being diagnosed with ovarian cancer in 2019. She chose a deeply private path and spent her remaining years focusing almost entirely on family and treatment at home in California. Her long and stable 41-year marriage to Conway became the emotional center of her life during those difficult years, especially as her health steadily declined. Even while battling exhaustion and painful medical procedures, Balding carried the same quiet strength that had defined her long television career through series like Soap, Lou Grant, and The Boogans. Shannon Doherty as Prue Halliwell. Prue Halliwell walked through Charmed with sharp eyes, unstoppable confidence, and the protective intensity of a sister who looked ready to fight demons and destiny at the same time. Born on April 12, 1971, in Memphis, Tennessee, Shannon Doherty was 27 years old when the series began in 1998 and quickly became one of the defining faces of the show. Her fierce screen presence and emotional depth helped turn Prue into one of the most beloved witches in television history. Sadly, Shannon Doherty passed away on July 13, 2024, at the age of 53 after a long and devastating battle with breast cancer that eventually spread to her brain and bones. She died peacefully at her home in Malibu, surrounded by her mother, close friends, and loved ones after years of painful treatments and declining health. That final chapter of her life became especially heartbreaking because Shannon fought the disease publicly while also enduring emotional collapse behind the scenes. After first being diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer in 2015, she underwent a mastectomy, chemotherapy, and years of exhausting treatment, only for the cancer to return in 2020 more aggressively than before. At the same time, she became trapped in a bitter divorce battle with husband Kurt Iswarienko after discovering his alleged infidelity, leaving her emotionally and financially drained while already fighting for her life. After all, she spent her final years fighting a real battle far crueler than anything shown on screen. David Carradine as Tempest. With that calm voice, piercing stare, and almost playful cruelty, Tempest manipulated time inside Charmed like a demon who enjoyed watching people suffer over and over again. Born on December 8, 1936, in Hollywood, California, David Carradine was 63 years old when he appeared in the series in 1999 as the sinister Tempest. His unsettling performance gave the character a dangerous intelligence that instantly made him one of the show's most memorable villains. David Carradine died on June 3, 2009, at the age of 72 after being found unresponsive inside a hotel room closet in Bangkok, Thailand, while filming overseas. Investigators later determined the cause of death was accidental asphyxiation connected to a sexual practice known as autoerotic asphyxiation. The shocking circumstances of his death immediately became worldwide headlines and stunned both Hollywood and longtime fans. Behind that disturbing ending was a man whose later years had become increasingly chaotic and emotionally unstable. Despite remaining famous for legendary roles in Kung Fu and Quentin Tarantino's Kill Bill films, Carradine reportedly struggled with severe loneliness, mounting debt, and constant stress from years of reckless spending and failed relationships. During the final stretch of his life, he accepted non-stop film projects overseas simply to stay financially afloat after selling multiple properties to pay off obligations. Finally, he became exhausted and isolated man when his personal life quietly collapsed around him. Joe E. Tata as police inspector. The police inspector in Charmed carried the weary patience of a detective who looked completely exhausted by the strange disasters constantly unfolding around him. Born on September 13, 1936, in New York City, Joe E. Tata was 65 years old when he appeared on the series in 2001. Even in brief appearances, his familiar face and grounded energy gave the role an authentic old-school television charm. Joe E. Tata passed away on August 24, 2022, at the age of 85 after a devastating battle with Alzheimer's disease. During the final years of his life, the illness gradually destroyed his memory and awareness until he could no longer properly recognize much of his own past. He died at a nursing facility in Woodland Hills, Los Angeles. That decline became especially heartbreaking because Tata had spent decades playing one of television's warmest and most comforting father figures through his iconic role as Nat Bosicchio in Beverly Hills 90210. After receiving his Alzheimer's diagnosis in 2018, his condition worsened rapidly and left his family struggling emotionally and financially under the weight of his long-term medical care. His daughter was eventually forced to create a public fundraising effort to help support treatment expenses. Watching such a beloved television presence slowly lose the memories connected to his life and career left a deep sadness around his final years that many longtime viewers never forgot. Billy Drago as Barbas. Every time Barbas appeared in Charmed, he carried that eerie grin and soft-spoken menace that made fear itself feel alive whenever he stepped into a scene. Born on November 30th, 1945, in Hugoton, Kansas, Billy Drago was 53 years old when he first appeared on the show in 1999 and quickly became one of Charmed's most unforgettable demons. His chilling voice and unsettling screen presence made Barbas feel genuinely dangerous every time he returned to torment the Halliwell sisters. Billy Drago passed away on June 24, 2019, at the age of 73 in Los Angeles after suffering severe complications following a stroke. His death marked the quiet end of one of Hollywood's most recognizable villain actors, though many fans were shocked to learn how isolated and emotionally broken he had become during his final years. That isolation reportedly became much worse after the death of his wife of more than 30 years, actress Silvana Gallardo, in 2012. While audiences still remembered him from chilling performances in The Untouchables and Pale Rider, Drago slowly disappeared from public life and cut off most media contact entirely. His grief and depression deeply affected him after losing his longtime partner, leaving him withdrawn and emotionally exhausted. Even though he spent decades terrifying audiences on screen, the final years of Billy Drago's life were marked not by fame or attention, but by silence, loneliness, and declining health behind closed doors. Bruce Gray as Elder Keel. Elder Keel spoke with the calm certainty of someone who seemed to carry centuries of secrets behind every quiet sentence inside Charmed. Born on September 7, 1936, in San Juan, Puerto Rico, Bruce Gray was 69 years old when he appeared on the show in 2005 as Elder Keel. His composed voice, elegant screen presence, and restrained performance made the character feel wise, intimidating, and emotionally distant at the same time. Bruce Gray passed away on December 13, 2017, at the age of 81 after battling metastatic brain cancer. The illness advanced extremely quickly after his diagnosis in 2016, forcing him to step away from acting and theater almost immediately. He spent his final months receiving specialized medical care in Los Angeles before quietly passing away. That sudden health collapse felt especially cruel for a performer who had spent more than 50 years building a respected career across television, film, and stage productions. Audiences widely remembered him from My Big Fat Greek Wedding and the acclaimed Drama Traders, which earned him a prestigious Gemini Award. Yet outside the spotlight, Gray lived a remarkably solitary life, never marrying to enjoy what he called original life. Once the cancer spread, his physical condition deteriorated so rapidly that he was forced to abandon the stage work he loved most. The quiet dignity that defined many of his performances ultimately followed him through the difficult final chapter of his life as well. Anne Haney as Aunt Gail Altman. Aunt Gail Altman brought the nervous warmth and awkward family energy of a relative who looked like she was always trying to hold everyone together while quietly falling apart herself inside Charmed. Born on March 4, 1934, in Memphis, Tennessee, Anne Haney was 65 years old when she appeared on the series in 2000. Her natural comedic timing and comforting screen presence made her instantly recognizable to audiences who had seen her for years in family comedies and television roles. Anne Haney passed away suddenly on May 26, 2001, at the age of 67 after struggling with severe heart disease and declining physical health. She died in California after spending her final years battling worsening heart problems alongside deep emotional exhaustion and depression. That sadness had followed her for decades after the collapse of her marriage in the early 1980s, when her husband's public affair left her emotionally devastated and forced her to rebuild her life alone. While audiences remembered her for warm-hearted performances in films like Mrs. Doubtfire and Liar Liar, her private world reportedly became increasingly painful during old age as tensions with her only daughter created emotional distance and isolation. So Anne Haney spent the final chapter of her life far away from the cheerful characters audiences loved on screen. Richard Lynch as Cronin stared through Charmed with burned, haunted eyes and the chilling calm of a demon who looked like he had already survived horrors far worse than death itself. Born on February 12, 1940, in Brooklyn, New York, Richard Lynch was 63 years old when he appeared on the series in 2003. His scarred face and unsettling screen presence made Cronin feel terrifyingly real the moment he appeared on screen. Richard Lynch passed away on June 19, 2012, at the age of 72 after suffering a sudden heart attack at his home in Yucca Valley, California. His body was discovered alone on the kitchen floor nearly 2 days later, making the circumstances of his death especially tragic and heartbreaking. That lonely ending reflected how painful and isolated his final years had become. Lynch used to transform the severe facial scars caused by a horrific LSD-related self-immolation incident in 1967 into one of Hollywood's most unforgettable villain appearances, eventually earning major recognition for The Sword and the Sorcerer. Everyone all thought he was a strong man. But the emotional collapse following the death of his only son Christopher from pneumonia in 2005 devastated him deeply and pushed him into years of depression and withdrawal from public life. As his health declined and the loneliness worsened, the once feared screen villain spent most of his later years living quietly and almost entirely alone in the California desert. Henry Gibson as the Sandman. The Sandman floated through Charmed with sleepy little smiles, gentle mystery, and the soothing voice of someone who seemed more connected to dreams than to the real world. Born on September 21, 1935, in Germantown, Pennsylvania, Henry Gibson was 68 years old when he appeared on the series in 2003. His calm delivery and quietly eccentric charm gave the magical character a strange warmth that perfectly matched the fantasy atmosphere of the show. Henry Gibson passed away on September 14, 2009, at the age of 73 after battling pancreatic cancer. He died peacefully at his home in Malibu, California, only 1 week before his 74th birthday. That painful battle with cancer began not long after the emotional devastation of losing his wife, Lois Joan Geiger, in 2007, ending a marriage that had lasted more than 40 years. Her death left Gibson heartbroken and emotionally exhausted, and as he struggled through grief, his own health suddenly started collapsing when doctors discovered pancreatic cancer 2 years later. While enduring painful treatments and worsening physical weakness, he still carried the same gentle humor audiences had loved since Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In and his acclaimed role in Nashville. By the end of his life, he was spending his days quietly fighting loneliness, illness, and exhaustion far away from Hollywood's spotlight. Michael Gilden as Finnegan. Finnegan bounced through charmed with playful sarcasm, restless energy, and the mischievous confidence of a magical troublemaker who always looked ready to outsmart everyone around him. Born on September 22, 1962, in Los Angeles, California, Michael Gilden was 41 years old when he appeared on the show in 2003 as the leprechaun Finnegan. Even with limited screen time, his expressive personality and fast-talking humor instantly made the character memorable to viewers. Tragically, Michael Gilden passed away on December 5, 2006, at the age of 44, after taking his own life at his home in Los Angeles. His death shocked many people because the cheerful fantasy characters he often played on screen hid years of emotional and physical suffering behind the scenes. Although he successfully built a career through productions like Star Wars, Return of the Jedi, and Pulp Fiction, the fear of being pushed out of Hollywood never truly disappeared. At the same time, a painful autoimmune disorder slowly weakened his body and added constant physical suffering to the depression he was already fighting privately. Marriage to actress Meredith Eaton in 2001 brought moments of happiness and stability, but the emotional exhaustion and worsening health gradually became too heavy to carry alone. Behind the joyful fantasy characters audiences remembered was a man quietly losing hope during the final years of his life. Holly Marie Combs as Piper Halliwell. Piper Halliwell held Charmed together with nervous charm, exhausted sarcasm, and the protective warmth of a sister who constantly looked overwhelmed but would still risk everything for her family. Born on December 3, 1973, in San Diego, California, Holly Marie Combs was 25 years old when the show premiered in 1998. Over time, Piper evolved from the shy middle sister into the emotional heart of the entire series, making Holly one of the most beloved stars of the show. By 2026, Holly Marie Combs is 53 years old and has largely stepped away from the non-stop pressure of mainstream Hollywood acting. After finding major success again through Pretty Little Liars, she gradually shifted toward a quieter lifestyle centered around family, fan conventions, and life away from television sets. She currently lives on a large ranch property in Los Angeles with her third husband, Mike Ryan, and her 3 sons, focusing much of her time on animals, nature, and personal peace. That slower lifestyle came after many years of exhaustion and emotional pressure connected to the entertainment industry. Following decades inside high-profile television productions, Combs openly embraced a more private and grounded life instead of chasing constant fame. She gradually shifted towards stability, motherhood, and protecting her mental well-being after spending so many years inside Hollywood's demanding spotlight. So now we only see her image through the films she played. Brian Krause as Leo Wyatt. Leo Wyatt appeared in Charmed with soft-spoken kindness, calming wisdom, and the gentle patience of a guardian angel constantly trying to protect the Halliwell sisters from falling apart. Born on February 1, 1969, In El Toro, California, Brian Krause was 29 years old when the series premiered in 1998. His warm chemistry with the cast and emotionally grounded performance helped turn Leo into one of the most beloved magical characters on the show. By 2026, Brian Krause is 57 years old and lives a far quieter life compared to his years at the height of Charmed's popularity. After the series ended, he struggled to find another breakout role and mostly appeared in guest television spots, smaller independent films, and fan convention appearances. He now lives privately in Los Angeles and remains especially close with his son Jamin while continuing occasional acting work. That quieter lifestyle came after years of emotional instability and personal struggle following the end of Charmed. As the major Hollywood opportunities slowly faded, Krause openly admitted he went through periods of depression, anxiety, and heavy alcohol addiction that deeply affected both his confidence and mental health. Rebuilding his life eventually became more important than chasing fame, and over time he successfully achieved sobriety while stepping away from the pressures of constant industry competition. Instead of trying to recreate the peak of his television career, Brian gradually focused on stability, recovery, and maintaining peace in his personal life after years of emotional turbulence behind the scenes. Alyssa Milano as Phoebe Halliwell. Phoebe Halliwell spun through Charmed with flirtatious energy, rebellious confidence, and the free-spirited personality that made her feel like the unpredictable spark inside the Halliwell family. Born on December 19, 1972, in Brooklyn, New York, Alyssa Milano was 26 years old when the series began in 1998. Her charisma, humor, and emotional vulnerability helped transform Phoebe into one of the most recognizable characters of the late 1990s fantasy television era. By 2026, Alyssa Milano is 54 years old and remains one of the most publicly active former Charmed stars. Beyond acting in projects like Mistresses and Netflix's Insatiable, she expanded into writing, activism, and political advocacy while raising 2 children with her husband David Bugliari, whom she married in 2009. She continues living in California while balancing family life with public campaigns and media appearances. That visibility also brought intense public pressure back into her life during recent years. After becoming one of the most recognizable voices connected to the global #MeToo movement in 2017, Milano found herself under constant media attention and political criticism from both supporters and opponents online. At the same time, old tensions and conflicts from the Charmed set repeatedly resurfaced in interviews and podcasts involving former cast members, dragging years-old emotional wounds back into public discussion. As we see, Alyssa Milano has spent recent years navigating a very different kind of public battle under the constant glare of social media and celebrity culture. Rose McGowan as Paige Matthews. Paige Matthews crashed into Charmed with rebellious sarcasm, chaotic energy, and the fearless attitude of someone who looked completely unafraid to challenge both demons and destiny. Born on September 5, 1973, in Florence, Italy, Rose McGowan was 28 years old when she joined the series in 2001 following Shannon Doherty's departure. Her edgy charisma and emotionally wounded performance helped Paige quickly evolve from a risky replacement character into one of the most popular witches in the show's later years. By 2026, Rose McGowan is 53 years old and has almost completely stepped away from mainstream Hollywood acting. After years in film and television, she shifted toward independent creative work, writing, directing, and visual art, while living a far more private lifestyle. She currently spends much of her time focused on artistic projects, personal healing, and life away from the center of the entertainment industry. That dramatic change came after years of emotional exhaustion connected to her public battle against powerful figures inside Hollywood. McGowan suddenly found herself at the center of a worldwide cultural movement while simultaneously enduring enormous psychological pressure, media chaos, and personal attacks. The stress became so overwhelming that she eventually left the United States for long periods, living in Mexico and Europe while focusing on therapy and emotional recovery. Over time, the actress who once played television's wildest witch slowly transformed into a far more guarded and introspective artist searching for peace beyond Hollywood fame. Dorian Gregory as Daryl Morris. Daryl Morris moved through Charmed with the exhausted patience, loyal heart, and confused reactions of a detective constantly surrounded by supernatural disasters he could never fully explain. Born on January 26, 1971, in Washington, D.C., Dorian Gregory was 27 years old when the series began in 1998. His grounded and dependable performance made Daryl feel like the one ordinary person trying to survive the Halliwell's increasingly chaotic magical world. By 2026, Dorian Gregory is 55 years old and lives a much quieter life centered around family, charity work, and selective television appearances. After gradually stepping away from major acting roles, he focused more heavily on hosting work and humanitarian causes while maintaining a peaceful and scandal-free private life in California. That calmer chapter of his life was shaped largely by a health battle he had been silently fighting since childhood. Gregory was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at only 9 years old, forcing him to spend decades carefully managing a condition that constantly affected his daily routine and long-term health. Rather than hiding the illness, he eventually chose to speak openly about it and became a national spokesperson for the American Diabetes Association, using his platform to raise awareness and encourage others living with the disease. While many actors chase headlines and controversy after fame fades, Dorian Gregory instead built a life focused on stability, advocacy, and helping people facing the same struggle he has carried almost his entire life. So after all these years, the magic of Charmed still lives on. But for many beloved cast members, real life ended far more tragically than fans ever imagined. Which story shocked you the most? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and honor their legacy with us in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video. Goodbye!